Hey YouTube, Shelby Paget back in the garage, and today we're just gonna do pretty much like a little bit of an overview of a year plus of ownership of my first Porsche and what it's been like. So for those of you that have been following along with the channel, thank you so much for checking out this beautiful car as she's come along in a way that I guess I've interpreted what I envision it to be. I know we have a lot of Porsche purists out there that really want the 987.1 to be intact in its original form, which is totally fine. Totally understand preserving the original heritage of the car, original intention of the design, but I get bored pretty quick, so I like to change things up, and that's why we are where we're at today. So the car, as you can see, is definitely quite a bit different than what you would see on standard 987.1. This is a 2006 Porsche Cayman S 3.4 liter flat six with a 6-speed manual transmission. And if you haven't seen my previous videos for what the build sheet looks like, there's a lot that has been done to the car. I'll touch on a few of the highlights, but for a full detail overview, you can check out some of my last videos where we actually deep dive into everything done to the car. But at a glance, visually, the car is quite a bit different. We've got a precision Porsche 991.1 front end and a GT style rear bumper from them, as well as a cup style rear wing and uprights, a little bit taller than your traditional like Getty wing or RS wing setup, and a little bit flatter plane on the profiling of the rear wing than the Getty designs, which I still have the Getty designs one as well. So if I ever wanted to go back, I could, or I may sell that setup altogether. I also have the 987.1 Joe Toth 3-piece splitter on the front end with the LED light spurs from the original bumper. So if that's something you want, I know a lot of you guys have been DMing me on Instagram and writing on YouTube too about when I'm going to sell the other parts. The main thing is just shipping them out is such a pain. If you can meet me somewhere locally, I'm in Boise, Idaho, or somewhere around here, that'd be ideal. I'd be more than happy to facilitate a sale and make it easier since I won't have to ship it out. But let me know. I got a rear bumper, stock bumper with the Joe Toth rear diffusers, and then the Joe Toth 3-piece front splitter with the LED light spars instead of the fog lights, and the bumper itself as well. I also have the Getty RS uprights and rear wing, not the base mount, because I use the base mount with the cup style wing. And let's see, what else? Olin's road and track coilover system, amazing. It's not as expensive as like the JRZ setup or some of the full tilt track setups, but it's still comparable in a lot of ways, and it's compliant on the road. It works good for a canyon ripper, glorified canyon ripper, what I call the car, I guess, as well as getting out to an autocross or a track day if you can. I am building this car to be pretty aggressive in terms of track orientation, so I hope to get a track day in. I'm in Boise, Idaho, so tracks, I think the closest tracks are about 5 hours and 6 hours in Washington and Utah from me. So I'd love to do that. I've got the deep oil pan setup for it, so it's got additional volume plus the fins to help distribute the oil and cooling so that when you go into hard corners that you don't get oil starvation issues. That's in the car. Got a third radiator in the center, mounted up and set up for additional cooling. It's got the GT3 master cylinder for the braking system, which is one of the best mods you can do. It's about 260 bucks or so, but man, the braking power is through the roof with the instantly. You put that thing on, that's one of the best braking mods you can do. I did that with steel braided lines and Galfer steel braided brake lines and stock pads and stock calipers, and the braking was immensely improved. So that's pretty cool. More volume for the master cylinder for more power. Let's see, we've got the Apex EC7 wheels on here, 18 by 9 in the front and 18 by 10.5 in the rears. And then I've got the Sparco Evo seats, race seats, fixed back bucket seats with fixed base mounts. And I got one for the driver that's real thin for me. I got a small in there for 30-inch waist, and then the passenger one's an XL. I've got a short shift kit numeric short shift kit in there for the 6-speed transmission, weighted shift knob, race clutch, light and flywheel, aluminum light and flywheel, and a OS Geeking limited slip rear differential. It's like more of a track oriented rear end, which is noisy. That combined with the light and flywheel, this thing is a chatterbox at engagement and at very low turning and revs. So it's kind of wild. I've also got a Club Sport 4-point roll bar installed and some 6-point harnesses coming from Sparco, and a Momo racing 3-spoke race wheel or steering wheel. And yeah, that's pretty much kind of at a glance. There's a lot of other things with like Tarot roll bars or sway bars and adjustable end links, GT3 lower control arms, and a couple other things. But if you want the full list, feel free to check it out on my other videos. But I've had this car for over a year now, and I went out to Washington to pick it up with my brother. The original video of us flying out and picking it up is in my channel. It's really cool. That was super fun. The car was covered in red or vinyl wrap. In my opinion, it looked atrocious. It looked like it was set up on Baja suspension on 19s. The wheels were sick, but they just weren't gonna work with the Öhlins. Öhlins have really, not really tight, but tighter clearance on the rear shock body than most suspension setups. So if you're putting 19s that are wide, I had 19 by 11s on the rear, and they were really cool wheels, but they weren't gonna work if we were gonna lower the car appropriately. So with the 10.5 apexes, they're still really tight. I've got like maybe 3 to 5 millimeters of clearance max between the rear strut and the wheel, so that's pretty wild. I'm gonna go to some 10-inch wide wheels with the 275 rear tires and keep the tire width the same, but the wheel is gonna be a little bit different offset, so I can tuck them up a little bit more. It's about maybe a 1/2 inch higher than I want it to be right now, and so I'm gonna take it down just a touch, but not too much. And then, yeah, so brought the car home. The drive home was pretty wild. It had a plenum, a GT3 plenum body on it, as well as a couple other, it has solid motor mounts, it still does. So the feedback, and it had the numeric short shift when I bought it. And so all that stuff was great. Really driver centric or driver engaged feedback, similar to like the old E30s or maybe an E36 kind of, where everything is just notchy and like positive and positive feel when it's in place and in motion. It was really cool. So the driving experience is unlike anything I've ever experienced, and you just feel so connected to the car. You feel like you feel the steering, every little bump and crevice you can feel through the steering wheel input and or output, and every little steering input is noticed as well through the driving experience. So it's such a cool car in that regard. It's, like I said, it's a true driver's car. A lot of people look at the car and think, oh, that's, I think it's a GT3 or like some sort of GT style or GT4. And I'm always like, no, it's a Cayman S 987. It's actually an old car. They're actually pretty affordable. I got the car for $25,000 with 60,000 miles on it when I first bought it, and no engine or motor issues. So pretty excited that everything's sustained pretty well over the time. I haven't had any mechanical issues with the car. Everything I've been doing has been upgrades in the shop for preference and for improving that drive feel for like autocross and canyon driving. Car meets, I like to go to car meets in the summer and spring just to go and check out other people's cars and kind of hang out with the car and get a little more seat time in. And then going for like the autocross series this year is going to be a main focal point. I got to do a couple last year, and I want to up that appearance with the car to see if we can really get some, I don't know, some higher positions and rank pretty well. And then, yeah, the car's been great. It's not a daily driver really, I wouldn't say, because it's awfully uncomfortable and it's awfully chattery with the stuff I've put on it. So I'd recommend, if you're gonna build a car this way, that you have another daily driver. I've got my truck, my wife's SUV, if need be. So that's been pretty nice. But this thing is super fun, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. If you guys are contemplating or thinking about the Cayman, especially the 987, I know there's IMS and bore scoring discussions all over the web, but it really is a very minute amount or percentage of the cars. So I'm just gonna run it and see what happens. If something happens and fails, then we'll deal with it as it happens and we'll rebuild it or put a different engine in it. And I'm totally, okay with accepting that process, because I love the car. The mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, 6-speed manual is just such an experience to be a part of. Handles insanely well. You can just stuff this thing into corners and it hooks and goes. Pretty cool. So that's pretty much an overview. I've had no mechanical issues with the car. Everything I've done for shop time has been either general maintenance. I've done 2 oil changes and some brake pads, and all the other stuff is modifications really, which has been cool. I've only put about 4,000 miles on it in a year or so, which is not too bad for a weekend driver. And when I do drive it, I tend to get into it a little bit. It's supposed to be driven pretty hard. These things tend to drive and last longer and better when you do drive it like it's meant to be driven. So that's probably a good tip when you get out there. Really play with the car and put it through its paces as much as you can. And hopefully we can do a track day. I want to do a track day. I want to know what it's like to be on the track and put in consistent laps, improve my driving skill, and really have some fun with the car, with what it was built to do initially. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. It's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to a lot of cars and coffees, autocross, and hopefully some track days this year. Follow me on Instagram. My personal page is Ginger969. The car has its own Instagram page. It's Porsche Cayman Porsche Cayman 987.1. And you can check it out there. So the car is going to go through some visual changes pretty soon, and then hopefully one more engine mod this year. We'll see how that goes. But I do have a used turbo kit for sale, a TPC Stage 3 kit with ECU and everything. Pretty much everything you need. You might need to finagle a couple things like piping and some of the fitment things for radiators and stuff, but I've got the whole kit, bolt on with a little bit of work with someone that knows more about turbo installs than I do, or the shops around here. And then I've got front and rear bumpers, Getty fender flares if you want those, and some OEM standard leather black seats, power seats. So if you guys want to engage, hit me up. Let me know what you guys want to see. Just want to give you guys an update what it's like. It's probably the longest I've owned a car in the last 10 years or so, and I think this one's here to stay. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and hope you guys have a great week. See ya.